Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us here today for this breakout session on Chamber membership, Grow, Connect, Retain. My name is David Betancourt. I am the Vice President for External Affairs Market Manager for Comerica Bank. And today we're going to have a really good discussion. We're going to talk a little bit about how do you grow your Chamber membership? How do you develop, innovative programs that are attracting new members? What's your value proposition as a chamber? And today we really have an all-star lineup ready for you guys. And just in alphabetical order, we have Brenna Butler Garcia. She is the Vice President of Community Relations for AG Spanos Company, a very successful real estate company, but also known as the owner of the Chargers, Los Angeles Chargers. Brenna also comes from a background of chambers. She was formerly the CEO of the San Joaquin County Hispanic Chambers of Commerce, and now formally serves as a board member for the San Joaquin County and also for the California Hispanic Chambers of Commerce. We also have Jay Tamsey. He is the president and CEO for the Kern County Hispanic Chambers of Commerce. Fun fact, something I didn't know about Jay was he actually started off his career in the something I felt was really interesting. But Jay, he has a track record of success with the chamber. Developed many different programs and was actually awarded as Chamber of the Year last year at the CHEC annual convention. We also have Lily Rocha. She is the executive director for the Los Angeles Latino Chamber of Commerce. Lily also comes from a background of marketing and food as well. She founded Sabor Latino, which is actually a very successful trade show for the Latin food industry. And she joined as executive director earlier this year and is now taking over and leading the charge over at that chamber and helping it with its direction. And then we also have Maria S. Salinas, my former leader where I came from before joining the bank. Maria is the president and CEO of the Los Angeles Area Chamber of Commerce and also comes from a very extensive background, corporate America and financial services, working for Ernst & Young, the Disney company, just name a few. And also recently, fun fact, just got appointed to Governor Gavin Newsom's commission on the future of work and named to his Business and Jobs Recovery Task Force as it relates to COVID-19. So as you can see, we got a all-star lineup for you guys. So get your notepads ready because we really do have a lot to go talk about today. So we'll just go ahead and get right into it. So as a Chamber of Commerce, it's a membership-based organization. It's made up of small businesses, corporations, different nonprofit organizations, and you all join forces together to be the voice of the business community while still offering programs and benefits for your membership to address the needs of your community. So, Maria, I'll start with you on this one. Tell us about your chamber. Tell us about your membership base and what makes your chamber unique.
Yes, thank you, David, very much. And thank you very much to the California Hispanic Chamber of Commerce for inviting me to this panel, to being here with the other members of the panel here. Chamber membership is at the core of everything that we do. The LA Area Chamber of Commerce is known as a regional chamber. We look at we have a regional view in what we're doing. We have about 1,400 members. I would say one thing that's unique to our membership base is that about 70% of those members are small businesses. And a lot of times when people think of the LA Chamber, they think of, big business membership base, but our membership base is definitely driven by small businesses. And I think that should not be a surprise because just knowing the business landscape in Los Angeles. So I'm very proud of that fact. I think what it means to us in terms of the value back to members is that it has to be twofold. We have larger corporate major employers that are with us because a lot of the work that we do in our public policy area And then for our small business members, it's really about bringing value to them on what are the needs today. And certainly in a pandemic environment, their needs have been many. You know, what information can we provide on health orders, on new legislation that is on to be able to keep the doors open. So there's definitely been a lot that I would say the needs are for the chamber to ensure that the value proposition is top of line, depending on your members. So.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. And Lily, I'll ask you the same questions. Tell us a little bit about your chamber, your membership base, and what makes your chamber.
Thank you so much, David, and thank you again for the opportunity to be with such a distinguished group. Again, I also represent the Latino Chamber of Commerce here in Los Angeles. So similar to what some of the areas that Maria covered, as well as legislative, and our value proposition has to be similar to that. We also have we're focusing on Latino businesses. Obviously, we have been disproportionately affected by the pandemic. So in these times, what we've been doing since I know since March 8th, I believe we have put up all of the pandemic toolkit, COVID-19 toolkits and resources for our members. So I know that we as a chamber also have a large number of small businesses. We are probably comprised of probably about the same percentage of small businesses within our chamber, probably a little bit more. And so we are that chamber that does provide those resources to small businesses. Now, obviously, we also had the component of making sure that we were there with regard to finance and financial information for all of the grants and loans and all the information that is much needed by the community. Obviously, that's a big, mountain of information that we've been having to deal with on both sides of the landscape with regard to coming and going, and so that's one of the current value propositions. Now, non-COVID times, we provide education, we provide we're an advocacy group for our members. We do a lot of advocacy work in Sacramento as well as Washington D.C. with regard to a lot of issues that pertain to Latino businesses in particular. I'm very proud right now that we do have a business skills program that is ending in December, started in July. So we were able to put that together even during the pandemic. So that's something that is something that we do normal, I guess non-normal as well. And so, so very proud of that as well.
Awesome. Jay, let's head up to Central Valley. So what makes your Chamber of Commerce unique? Tell us a little about your membership base.
Here in Kern County, 54% of our population in Kern County is Hispanic. So our membership base is about 1,200 members at this moment, 1,200 active members, and we represent about over 410 Hispanics as well. And yes, we are a membership-driven organization. What makes us unique, 60% of our membership is Hispanic, 40% is other. And so I feel like we need each other to survive in this economy. We're almost number one, maybe number two, in the nation in regards to agriculture. And so our membership ranges anywhere from agriculture to oil, the oil industry, small businesses, in fact, run most of our membership, and also health and wellness and financial institutions. So I think that definitely puts us on the map as being big in oil and ag. But what makes us unique, I really think that we are a large family. If you enter my home or you enter my parents' home, you're always going to be greeted and asked if you wanted something to eat. You always something to eat, something to drink, And I feel like here at the chamber, at any of our events or workshops, whatever you have, you feel like one of an extended family member. So
Awesome.
thank you.
I'll take that as an invitation to your family's home then to get some food. But
thank you.
So Brenna, so from the corporate side, but as a current board member of 2 chambers, let's start with the San Joaquin. So tell us a little bit about the San Joaquin County Hispanic Chamber and what makes that chamber unique.
Yeah, so Jay and I both have the privilege of representing the Central region as part of the California Hispanic Chambers of Commerce. And he's covering the southern portion. I cover the northern portion. So Stockton and San Joaquin County are about an hour south of Sacramento. And we too are part of the agricultural epicenter for California. Stockton in itself is somewhat unique in that it's a transportation hub. So we have passways from 2 major thoroughfares, I-5 and 99. We have we've become known as sort of a logistics hub. We also have the furthest most inland port on the West Coast with the Port of Stockton. And so you'll see movement of products from throughout the state and throughout the country coming in and out of Stockton. And that region. And so the chamber is largely made up of, much like everybody else here, of small business. And I think they've done a really great job of being an inclusive organization that really works with small businesses throughout the area to give them impactful programming and meaningful connections that are going to help them sustain their businesses. They've been huge champions for procurement opportunities in the Valley. So they work very closely with many of the state and government agencies from throughout the region to help small business access large contracts. But they also have done a great job at connecting with kind of corporate America and the private sector to encourage their use of small business too, which is really important. I think that they've really been also great local advocates for their small business members. They recently worked with the County Board of Supervisors and advocating for CARES Act funding so that our small businesses were given some small business grants and relief through COVID. So that's really been a big focus of the local chambers, and they've done a great job at connecting all of those different government entities together in order to get the resources that small business needs.
Yeah, no, that is awesome. We all know, I mean, chambers of commerce played a huge role during this pandemic for our business community. So we'll go into our next question, and so as our community keeps evolving, you know, our economy evolves. There's a new generation of entrepreneurs, and there's also a new generation of young professionals entering the workforce and new businesses being developed. So how do you attract new membership? How do you retain members, and what are your recommendations for a thriving membership base? Jay, I'll start with you on this one, just because I know you have a very successful track record of growing your membership base.
Well, I think that every chamber starts off by making sure that we reach out to folks, we connect with them, we have a conversation, we communicate. Retention is really, really important. So you're not always going to get that new member right away, but building that relationship with them and just establishing that relationship, you're able to bring in new members. I don't really think a lot of folks give chambers credit folks don't give chambers enough credit as we go through this pandemic, but we really are helping our members thrive. So, you know, just being there for them and making sure that you have a referral program, that you refer your members out within your network. will just make you a successful chamber.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I hear you. I hear you. And so Lily, I mean, same question to you. I mean, there's, tons of small businesses, organizations out there that, would benefit from a chamber of commerce. Like, how do you attract new members? How do you retain?
This is probably like my favorite question, and I know it's going to be my favorite question so far. This is an area that I really focus on, and I feel like it's very important. You said something very important with your question at the beginning. You were saying, a lot of young entrepreneurs, and I feel like my background is Silicon Valley, so when I was there, I was probably one of the younger people during the first bubble. So I kind of, was that person that was learning, hey, all about business. So I kind of bring that to what I do now. And I look at all of these people, especially like my favorite area, AI and VR. So something that is it's growing so much that really, I feel like our chamber, we're just at the beginning of it. We're really opening up that, those areas to different entrepreneurs. In the last few months, I've worked, I'm very, very proud of the Pledge LA fund that we just partnered with Annenberg Tech. That's probably one of the most exciting programs for me. And that really does bring a lot of interest to the chamber, and interest is going to bring members. And so right now, our collaboration with Annenberg Tech, that's giving out a $25,000 equity-free grant to different entrepreneurs in the South LA area. That really has created a buzz for us, and that creates, new membership. I've had at least 6 members, and that's not a high number, but that's a high number for the young entrepreneurs who have been really just like didn't even know anything about the chamber and have signed up to be chamber members. But to me, that's an area of growth, especially with the Latino population being so young and us being such a huge contributor in the entire nation to the GDP of the entire nation. So you look at the fact that we as Latinos are a younger group as a whole. We're going to have a lot of people who are entrepreneurs and business people in that giant group, and we're going to be contributing to the GDP nationally. We got to focus on these people, and that is one. Like I said, that is one of my favorite areas. So I do try to keep up with all of the not just trends, but everything that's going on. Like I said, one of my favorite areas is, artificial intelligence. I think that there's so many beautiful platforms that are being put together by Latinos. Last week alone, I was working with some high school students that are, creating some amazing platforms with virtual reality and AI. And I was blown away, and I was so proud, and I was so happy. And I have, again, a lot of, hope for the future that we as Latinos are going to really drive that growth. So I feel that for me, and especially with the LA Latino Chamber, just being on top of, the trends and what really is, a growing Latino population, we really got to look at that data and go with it. So that's something that we're focusing on at the LA Latino Chamber of Commerce.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So, Maria, I mean, the LA Area Chamber, one of the largest chambers in the country, so many different ways you can support. So how do you add value? How do you create a value proposition that attracts new members and keeps your current membership base?
Yeah, great question. I think that when I think of the LA Chamber, I think of the value proposition to a lot of our members is really around the public policy. We do a lot of work in the public policy area, both at the federal level, state level, and locally. And engaging our members in that conversation is so important, because a lot of times when we speak to policymakers and elected officials that are making these decisions, they know we represent the business community, but they want to hear from the actual businesses that are, struggling to make their payroll. And so we've been able to really take an approach of visiting with members that are making these decisions and bringing along, some of our small business members. We've partnered with the Los Angeles Latino Chamber and have brought in some of their members into conversations that we've had. So a lot of it is collaboration. What kind of collaboration can we bring to the LA Chamber that is of value to some of our members? So I definitely think in the public policy space that some of our members look at us at the Chamber to lean in on those issues that are really detrimental to the business community, not just to big business, but when you look at just what was before the state legislature this past year, there was a lot of stuff in there, regulations that would have impacted small businesses. So I think the public policy space is so important to really bring the value forward.
Yes, definitely. And Brenna, I have a slightly different question from you coming from the corporate side of things. So aside from putting together impactful programs for small businesses and the community, corporate partnerships play a huge role and a value add resource for chambers and business associations and nonprofits. So my question to you is, how do you create long-lasting, meaningful relationships as a Chamber of Commerce with a corporation that is, it's a real relationship and it's not just a transactional relationship for sponsorships?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think that, Jay mentioned something and he talked about having the personal relationships with your members, and it really is about understanding your membership. Chambers of Commerce are, in addition to being advocates, which is a critical component to what we all do, I think that Chambers of Commerce are also connectors. And so when you really understand the businesses that you represent, you can find out what matters to them and make the relationship that you have with those companies, corporate or small business, meaningful. So it's about really spending time with your corporate sponsors, understanding what is driving their agendas for connecting to the membership, and then looking for commonalities where your mission and their mission align. And I think that that's really where you can create some great relationships. And then it's also about respecting the outcomes of those relationships. So putting together corporate partnership programs where you as a Chamber of Commerce are able to deliver on those components and to execute them well. I think that that's really where you can connect with your corporate partners, and they will find that value. They will continue to invest in you as an organization, and likewise, you are further along in achieving your mission and impacting all of your members.
Yeah, I think a key thing you said was finding where both of your missions align and then going from there. I think that is a huge success factor in a true relationship. And let's see, Lily, I'll ask you this question. So when it comes to developing different types of programs for your chamber that are impacting your membership in a good way, in a positive way, how do you put together a program that is beneficial both for your small business community, but then also for your corporate partnerships?
Thank you. Yeah, no, again, really getting to know, like what Brianna said, getting to know who your members are and what their needs are, and really doing a deep dive into that type of analysis, and then taking that information and aligning it with the goals of your sponsors. Obviously, sponsors have different needs, and for us, obviously the pandemic hit, but we have Hispanic Heritage Month. So what we've done is we tried to take, the fact that we had, this holiday for Latinos and really use that knowledge that we had from our vendors, and then marry that with our sponsors, and then created some really innovative packages. But I feel like that's key, knowing who your members are, knowing what the goals of the sponsors are. Now, what I personally try to do is not just, get to know who the sponsors are, but really take a deep dive into what their goals are. Because sometimes I've heard like, oh, you guys have a lot of banks that sponsor you. Well, each bank though has a different goal, and so they don't necessarily all have the same goal, so they're not competing for the same space. So getting to know, like, Manufacturers Bank, they have a different goal. You know, B of A, they have a different. So really understanding those goals is what drives us to really create some innovative programs for not just for the, you know, our members, but something that our sponsors will be happy with. And so far this year, I feel like we've been very successful. We've partnered with a couple of our banking sponsors this year. I mentioned a program that we started in July. It's a technical business program. I feel like our members are happy who are involved, and then the sponsor is very happy as well. Things are going very well with that program. So, and that was a program that actually Mr. Raul Salinas brought to us. I think he's related to Maria, so that was something that it has been very, very successful at the Chamber of Commerce, so at our Latino Chamber of Commerce.
Awesome. And well, perfect segue. Maria, would you care to tell us about any types of programs you have as an example of how do you benefit both the small business and the private sector?
Yes, I definitely want to talk about one particular program, which I think is of great importance and great value to both. But I'm going to add one other comment to something Rena mentioned about, you know, chambers being connectors. In terms of the value, because I also think chambers are conveners, right? We can bring business to the table, government to the table, higher ed, and we can explore an issue from so many different perspectives. And that's valuable to members as well. So reminded me when you said connectors, because I always think about it, we're connectors and we're conveners. And I think the more that we do that, that's the more that I hear from our members saying, I loved understanding that issue from a holistic standpoint. In terms of one of the programs that I did want to mention that I think has been a real value add to both our large members as well as our small businesses is something we call 1LA Regional Collaborative, which is a procurement initiative. We do a lot of work around small businesses. And I got to the chamber here about 2 years ago. And one of the things that I looked at was there's two things that I know are really important to small businesses: access to capital and new business. And new business, to the extent that they could achieve earning a contract and a connection with a major organization to get a contract, that could really change the economic model for a business owner, an entrepreneur. So we launched into this work of really focusing our small business efforts around those two areas, procurement and access to capital. And so procurement, then that initiative is what birthed 1LA, which has now been around for about a year. And the goal of 1LA is to provide the technical assistance to those small businesses so that they are ready, that they are contract ready, that they're certified, that they understand all the technicalities about, you know, vendor requirements, and that we can help them with a match. Because again, we're conveners. We can bring the big players to the table that are purchasing. And now in this COVID environment, it is so important. We need to hold ourselves accountable to bring those members that are spending dollars to spend those dollars locally with our small, diverse businesses, because they're the ones that need it. And I really believe that that's a way that they can recover quicker and faster. We brought that to LA County in their economic recovery task force. You mentioned that I sit on the governor's task force. We've brought that to that task force, and we're just going to keep pressing on that, because I think the more that we can collaborate around procurement, that could be a big help to so many small businesses that are struggling right now.
Definitely. And one of the strategies for recovery for small businesses was procurement. You know, that how do you continue bringing in revenue, finding those contracts? That is a very successful strategy to use during this pandemic. And, you know, speaking of pivoting, Jay, I wanted to ask you, I think you might have mentioned it a little bit, but if we can get a little bit deeper into how did your chamber pivot during the pandemic? What type of different resources or programs did you start offering?
Well, first of all, what we did is here at the Kern County Hispanic Chamber, my staff and I, what we did is we got on the phone and we called every single member that we had, and we wanted to make sure that they were doing okay. We wanted to make sure that they understood in English and in Spanish. And we have a big, Oaxacan community here in Taft as well. We wanted to make sure that they understood what the PPP was all about. When we had meetings with our county and local officials. So we wanted to assist all of our members and make sure that they were okay. We created a restaurant guide so that we can, send out to the folks here in Kern County so that they can, you can order curbside or order to go. We had designed a business guide if you were open and you were essential. And then we went and talked to our county officials, our local officials, and we asked them to create something for our membership and for our community in general. And there was money at the table. There was CARES money at the table, and we wanted to make sure that that was available. So what we created was the Kern County Relief Fund, which provided opportunities for our businesses to apply for funding that didn't receive the PPP. We were the only chamber in Kern County who provided. We left at the door. Let me rephrase this. We left the Kern County Hispanic Chamber of Commerce members at the door, and we said we are going to help everyone, regardless if you're a Kern County Hispanic Chamber member. We are going to help everyone who is a business owner and a small business owner, and we provided PPE to every single business owner that contacted my office, and they came in every 2 weeks, and we provided them PPE for the last 3 months now. We also created what was called, we saw our numbers rising and our COVID numbers rising. We created the first in the state Kern County Latino COVID-19 Task Force. We saw those numbers increase, and we saw a need. So what we did is we created this task force and brought together 30 prominent, and I'm a co-founder of 30 prominent Latinos and non-Latinos to the table to say, what are we going to do for our Latino community, for our community, to lower these numbers? So what we did is we went out and we started educating. We started making folks aware of PPE, how important it was to follow the CDC guidelines. We reached out to the Latinx. We reached out to our youth. We went out into the media. We have our own mobile testing unit that we take out to the farm workers, because without them, there's no food on the table for anybody. And then we went out and started testing essential workers who went to their jobs, and we asked their managers. A lot of Latinos are essential workers, and they don't have time to go get tested. And as we progressed, we now, as of yesterday, are not in the tier 1, we're in tier 2. So the more testing that we have anywhere in any county, that number is going to reflect on the governor's office and also his administration. So we did a lot of outreach during COVID, and I will tell you, it's been a long 8 months. I mentioned before, I don't think that a lot of folks in the community, unless you're a member, understand what your chamber does for you. And I think all of us, I can vouch for all of us on this panel and say, we have done everything that we can for our members and for their families. And as we created this COVID-19 task force, we've now tested over 6,500 folks in this community. And we wanted to make sure that we open up our economy again. Kids go back to school. We get to hug our abuelitos once again. And we just wanted to make sure that everybody was safe and they had the correct PPE, which their employer should have provided to them.
That's amazing. And thank you so much for your leadership on that, Jay. Brenna, my next question is to you. I mean, coming from the corporate side, you know, I know you work with a lot of different chambers, nonprofits. You know, what are some things you're seeing that people, how have different organizations adapted to the COVID-19 pandemic? What are some programs that you've been working with that have a response to the pandemic? Just what type of work are you seeing out there?
Well, I can share a little bit about my recent experience, and it does have to do with COVID, but it also has to do with just kind of the times we find ourselves in today. It was a few months ago that the mayor of Stockton, Mayor Michael Tubbs, reached out to the company that I represent, AG Spanos Companies, and others, and wanted to find a way to raise the profile of the African American Chamber in our community and invest in them. And I'm a strong believer in ethnic and minority chambers, as well as the entire chamber network. And I think that it's critical that we look to our colleagues and look for a way to raise all boats. And I think that we made an investment, and as a result, the African American Chamber in our community has started a Black-owned business database system for all the Black-owned businesses in San Joaquin County. They have started a new website where they're able to offer additional member benefits. And I think that there's a level of real excitement around what they're able to do for the small business community in our local region. And so I think that during these times, so many of us are struggling in the business community. And I think it's really important that we look to one another to look for ways to collaborate and help each other now more than ever.
I agree. I think, you know, the more organizations that work together, the greater impact you can make. Right. So definitely taking on a collaborative approach is a really good success factor for any type of organization. So last question, we'll go around the panelists before we get into Q&A. So Maria, in the audience, we have aspiring chambers of commerce from throughout the state of California. So in a closing statement, what should they prioritize as a chamber of commerce to ensure their long-term success?
Yeah, I'm just going to pick up on the comment that was just made about collaboration. If there's one thing that we've seen in just our own network is that, you know, one organization can't do it alone. No matter how big you are, can't do it alone. And, you know, our work at the chamber, one of the ways that we approach it is to say, who's our partner? Who are we going to collaborate with? Who are we going to bring to the table? And a lot of the initiatives, we pursue them in that manner. And I think that now more than ever, we need to be talking to those unlikely partners. Maybe it's a labor organization. Maybe it's a, you know, we're not an ethnic chamber, but I consider myself a partner with the Latino Chamber, with the California Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, the African American Chamber of Commerce, and so many others. That's just who we are in California. So we want to survive. We want to grow. We need to, you know, learn from each other, lean into each other, because I really believe that through collaboration, we will be stronger. We are stronger.
Definitely. Lily, same question to you. What should chambers prioritize for their long-term success?
Well, to echo the words of Maria, collaboration is absolutely one of the main things for sure, absolutely without a shadow of a doubt. For us, also inclusivity, not just having, one narrow focus of ideas, but there's so many different industries that are represented by Latinos. So for us, we're looking at all the different industries. So I think that's very, very important to do. And also, not to jump on the bandwagon of, Black Lives Matters and diversity, but diversity. And when I say diversity, I'm not just saying, gender, I'm talking about diversity within our own groups. There's, like I was saying, there's Latinos in entertainment, there's Latinos in construction, there's Latinos in, fintech. So there's so much diversity. We really need to address those things. And I think really being focused on those needs of our members, giving people a platform where we could be advocates for them in Sacramento is very important. But yeah, the collaboration, absolutely, no doubt. This is done with your partners. I feel very strongly about that as well. Thank you.
Jay, I'll go to you. Any last words of wisdom for aspiring chambers of commerce for their long-term success?
Our chambers, members run our chambers, and I think that is the key to the success of our chambers. Our chambers is that we just really make sure that our members are getting what they deserve out of our chambers, and that is from programs to being in contact with your elected officials. I strongly believe in partnerships and all of the business organizations that are in your county, that are in your state. Collaboration is so key. I agree with what our panelists had to say as well. And strategically place your chamber in a way where folks are going to want to be a part of you, want to be a part of what you have to offer, and also just make those connections with your elected officials. Your elected officials will be very instrumental in how your chamber moves and how it thrives. And so those are my last words. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Brenna, I know you already mentioned collaboration. Any last words of wisdom for aspiring?
Yeah, just echoing what Jay just said, I think that being an advocate for your business members and making sure that we are really putting our foot down about sensible policy making that's pro-business. It's hard enough to do business in California, but we need our policymakers, particularly at the local and state levels, to make sure that they are looking at this through the lens of what it's like to run a business day to day.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Well, now we're going to go into Q&A from our attendees. Looks like we do have some questions. So let's see, the first question is, how are your members accepting the new way you are delivering services via webinars and not in person? That's a very interesting question. Anybody have any intake? Any feedback from your members?
For us, if I could jump in, for us, what it's done is that it's allowed us to reach members that maybe couldn't drive to a location. And I think for us, it's also made us think about who else needs to be a part of this event that maybe isn't in our normal sphere, right within, Los Angeles. And we've gotten good feedback thus far from our members.
Yeah, definitely. Lily, did you have anything to add?
You know what, with regard to our educational resources, we've gotten some fantastic feedback because, sometimes people can't make it and coming into the downtown area sometimes is difficult. However, because the LA Latino Chamber is known for our amazing networking events, especially our Latino Business Awards that brings in over 800 people, I believe, between 800 to 1,000 folks. That has been, an issue that we have been grappling with because we do, that is one of the premier Latino events in LA, and I know that people do miss that. So we've been obviously working with meeting planners and professionals who can help guide us with that. But so ours has been like 50-50. With regard to educational, we've had some amazing feedback because it's been going great, as opposed, and then our networking events, obviously we, need to figure that out, because we do have some fantastic, for many, many years, the LA Latino Chamber has been known for having some amazing networking events. So that's kind of where we are with our virtual platforms.
Right. I mean, nothing's going to take away that in-person connection. Nothing compares to that. But, it's almost like a blessing in disguise, right? Because now you can host a program where, to Maria's point, instead of only targeting a certain area, now you can reach so many more people virtually. So there's a pro and con, to everything. Right. Let's see. So our next question is, so many of our chambers have small business members and corporate members. What do you feel is an acceptable ratio? Additionally, for the Hispanic Chamber representative, what do you feel the ratio of Hispanic to non-Hispanic members should be? Okay, so that's a two-part question. First question, what do you think a good ratio is between small businesses and corporate members? Anybody have intake on that? Should you have more small business members? Should you have maybe an even amount small business corporate members?
I can share with you kind of just what my experience has been in being a member of our local chamber. I think that 9 times out of 10, you see the majority of your members being small business members, because they don't have in-house lobbyists. They don't have people in government affairs that are representing them on a regular basis. And so they look to the chamber to be that advocate and to represent them in that way. So naturally, your corporations are going to be the minority of the membership base. However, I think that they're a really important component to our chambers. I think that they invest heavily in our communities and in our chambers, and they help provide much of the programming that we can supply to our members, and help underwrite those costs. Because at the end of the day, our membership dues won't always cover the scope of services and products that our chamber provides. So I think both are really critical.
Definitely. And so for the second part, which is an interesting question, because I know chambers, even if it's a Hispanic chamber, is very still inclusive of other, ethnicities and everything like that. So is there a ratio from Hispanic to non-Hispanic members? Does it matter? Does it matter?
I'll go ahead and take that. As I mentioned earlier, our chamber, for example, 60% Hispanic, 40% other. And I'm going to say this again, we as Latinos, yes, most of us believe we have the spending power, we have the earning power, but at the end of the day, we need each other. The corporate folks need the small businesses, and the small businesses need the corporate folks, the large businesses. And in order to make our economy thrive, we really need to work together, regardless if you're a Hispanic chamber, a Black chamber, or a chamber in general. Some folks have their preference in chambers. There is a need for ethnic chambers. We get that question all the time. But I really think that in working together with other chambers and working together with other business organizations and our corporate partners, I wouldn't say that there should be a larger ratio of Hispanics to non-Hispanics. That's just my belief.
Right. And it all goes back again to the collaborative approach that we talked about of, working together to make a greater impact. Let's see, another question is, so for smaller chambers that are just starting out, what do you think they should focus on right now?
Does anybody else want to take this?
I can jump in on
Okay.
like that. I think for smaller chambers, or starting out, I think it's no different like any business, right? When you start out, you need to pull in who your relationships. And, if there is a business community that doesn't have a chamber and you're starting a chamber, maybe it's going to be a little more work to go and do the outreach, but I think that's so important. That's how you'll build up the chamber. Focus areas, kind of, I think it was already mentioned, small businesses don't have those resources to have a public policy department and to have a full marketing department. So to the extent you can offer those type of unique services to small businesses, I think there's a tremendous amount of runway that you can start with as a small business, as a smaller organization chamber.
Yes, definitely. And then, so we have our last question here, and Lily, I'll go to you for this one. So, especially right now during the pandemic, bringing awareness to businesses, especially like restaurants, marketing is a huge thing for them, updating the community on their services, if they're still open, if they're not. How do you highlight your current members, your small business members of your chamber?
And thank you for mentioning restaurants, because I'm also the chair of the Latino Restaurant Association. It's a national organization. So at the LA Latino Chamber, we regularly highlight businesses on our newsletter and our website. What I did was this year I created, so when I came to the LA Latino Chamber in January, when I was kind of just settling in, a lot of members were calling on the phone and email, and they said, hey, no one picks up the phone. Hey, or, it was just, people wanted to be heard. So I said, hey, I'm available. And then I realized I wasn't available all the time for people. So what I did was I created a time slot for 15-minute appointments. And so people can sign up either Tuesdays or Thursdays. I have 1 hour on Tuesday, 1 hour on Thursday. So that's 4 appointments on Tuesday, 4 appointments on Thursday, and people have signed up. So what we've done is the people that have signed up for the 15-minute appointments, depending on their business, we highlight them. So that's one of the unique sort of values that we give to them, and people have been really happy. Now, the people who were not members and signed up for those 15 minutes, they then became members. I think the number was about 76% of those. I've had something like 46 phone calls. I think that was in a 3-month period, and about 76% of the people that were not members signed up as new members. So we do highlight our companies. I do like to have that two-way conversation with our members. So that's something that I believe is very, very important. So we then take them, we highlight them. We've had sort of so many things that just come from it. We discovered that we have a ton of members who provide PPE, the personal protection equipment, and all these different things, the signage. So that we were connecting people with one another, with members of the public. So yes, I think it's very, very important to highlight your membership in different ways and in unique ways. So that's what I did. I had the 15-minute appointments that have been very, very, very positive. I've had even when people, start with some questions, I really get to know people. I love to hear from the members. So that's been very successful. And that's been a way for me to reach out to members and then highlight them in our newsletter that goes out about twice a week, and our email blast, and our website as well.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. So that is all the questions we have for today. I want to thank our panelists again for joining us here today and sharing their expertise and their knowledge. Thank you for all those who attended this session today. We hope you enjoy the rest of the convention. I know there's a virtual mixer from Tito's Vodka later today, so if you have time, make sure to tune into that. And then I will just say too, on Friday, the highlight is always our CAP students from the Creating a Path to Success program. So they're presenting 1 p.m. on Friday on economic recovery. So they've been working on that, for months. So make sure you tune in for that. But everybody take care and stay safe.
Thanks.
Thank you.